Right, next up on the Schumacher LD3D build is step 11. This is the starting of the front steering rack. I'm going to build this car pretty much to kit, because the dirt car, you want it with all the plastics and so on, so keep the flex nice and sort of supple. Don't want anything too rigid, don't want anything too heavy. So that keeps the cost down as well, so you don't have to buy lots of upgrades. Might invest in a couple of things, maybe the Ali CTR steering rack and maybe the rear camber link, because they're kind of the plastic parts that can break if you have a bit of a heavy crash. Right, so we need for this step, we need some thread lock. Thread lock is your friend, and we need a 2mm driver. That's pretty much it, I think. Okay, so start off with your plastic bulkhead and screws. Now, like we did before, always clean your screws if you're going to use thread lock on them, because they're going to be oily out the packet from the factory. So get a bit of brake cleaner on a rag or on a cloth, and then a few twists, and look at oil that's come off there. There's no way thread lock's going to work very well on an oily screw. Right, so the holes we're going to use is the outer holes. I've never really used it in the holes. The outer ones are the ones we want. Oh, I can trim that bit off there. And so screw in, then it's a washer, and then we'll get one of our steering jobbies here. It's already got a bearing halfway in, so we want a bearing, and then a washer and a bearing. Oh, we've got black washers and a shim. So B is the alloy washer which goes at the bottom. Okay, so we don't want the washer there. This is the silver shim which goes in between the bearings. The black washer goes at the bottom. Okay, so there we go. So we build one of those up. Give it a squeeze. Might as well do the other one while we're here. These work either way, there's no difference to them. So bearing, silver shim, and bearing. Right, that's that one done. And then on the bulkhead we want black shim, and then we are going to go for a bit of thread lock. Come on, where are you? Seems to be not playing ball. Maybe it's a bit clogged. Let's get a pin in here. Don't know why it's not coming out. I have plenty more of this. Right, I'm going to park that one for a minute. I'll have one up here somewhere. That's better. Right, so bit of thread lock. Bit too much, so I'll just wipe the excess off. I don't want too much on there. Right, so then we get me steering part here. You can get these in alloy, but they're not really needed, in my opinion. Some people like them. I think the plastic ones are just fine. So I've slipped that in there, and tighten it up. Now we need a 5.5 driver to knit this up. And it doesn't need to be too tight, and then just make sure it's free. Yep. And that'll be one side done, so repeat with the other side, and that's stage 11 done. And then we'll move on to 12, which is the steering rack. Right, so I need to oil that one up. Right, I'll be back for stage 12. Right, that's stage 11 complete. Stage 12 is the steering rack. Okay, let's just get on with this one. And what have we got here? More bearings. Right, so I think we'll start off with the bearings. So I think it'll be bearing, shim bearing like we did before. So bearings on the top. Flip it over, and then these little shims drop in. Not sure they're seated in there. Another bearing. See, on this bulkhead here, we've got a little bit of swarf from the moulding, so just trim that off. If it's, you get any other bits like that, you can use a file or a Stanley blade, something like that. X-Acto knife, trim them up. Okay, right, so that's the bearings in. Next up is we need screws and washers. That didn't want to go in, so I'll give it a little squeeze with some shock pliers. So we want, okay, we'll do these first, I think. So we want the ball stud and the 2mm spacer. I'm going to use my electric driver for this, so save my winding my hands in. Sounds like it needs a charge up. I'll have to do the other one by hand, I think. Okay. So ball stud, spacer, and repeat. Then we're going to need a washer and screws and more thread lock for the other side. Right, that one's in. Right, whilst we've got this here, we might as well put the centre track rod bolt stud in. So 5.5 driver, and that goes on the back side. Oops, I need a few more turns on that one. Right, that's done. So next up we'll clean the screws, and then we can put together the rest of the rack. Look at that, filthy. Right, so what we're going to need to do here is make sure we get this around the right way. So the steering rack sits on top that way. So we need to put these chappies here in from the bottom. And then we need to make sure the screws are nicely thread locked. So they go through the top. Then it's a silver washer and a bit of thread lock. So you're just wiping off a bit of excess and making sure we've got this around the right way. We're just going to put this in a couple of turns to get it started, and then we'll do the other side before we fully tighten it down. Thread lock. And swing that round. And before we tighten everything down, make sure that looks like the picture, which it does. And then we'll get the 5.5 driver, knit these up. These are the things you want to get right. You don't want the thread lock to not do its job here, because these are the type of things that come loose in use whilst you're going around the track with all the steering loads going on. It tends to work things loose, so the thread lock has to be good. These come loose during the run, it's really annoying. Right, that's the steering rack complete, nice and free. Friendly thread lock when you need it on my hands. Okay, next up is stage 13, which is going to put this together on the bulkhead by the looks of it. This is 13. We've got 3 screws and a bulkhead. Tap into fresh plastic. Obviously, you want to leave those screws with them oil on them, because that will help them go in. So we need the little spacer here to go for the high pivot thing. That's probably going to be in this bag of bits here. Yes, 2 parts bag. So open it up and give it a shake. There we go. This is the spacer you want for that. So we'll start off with it facing that way and go for the middle screw, because that kind of got a locator in it. Pop the driver in there. Then we'll grab our front end steering rack assembly and just get a few turns on the screw there so it starts to locate. Makes life a lot easier with a good driver. The MIP 2mm driver is a great driver. Tips on these last a long time. If you're using a cheaper one, they're fine, but just make sure it's sharp. If it starts to round off, grab yourself a bench grinder or something and take a little trim off the end so you get back to sharp metal again. If you start rounding off these new screws, you'll be in a world of pain. I'll never tighten all the screws fully until they're all in part way. Just like what you do with most things, you know, you sort of, especially with the gear diffs, you tighten them up gradually, working your way around in like a diagonal pattern, just so everything seats nicely. Okay, that is all of those tightened down. That's the 1mm spacer, so that's set to high pivot block. Obviously, when you go low, you take that piece out and you put the little one in the top. So that's all ready to go on the car. Servo sits in there. Okay, next up is the servo assembly. Now we're not going to use the kit servo saver. We're going to use the Aerox one because I like these. These are well worth the extra few pennies to buy. So we'll take you out. I'll be using an Absina servo in this car. I'm not sure which one at the moment. Probably the new low profile ones that they do. They are pretty good, but there's other ones out there just as good. Whatever is your flavour. Right, I'm not going to use a lot of these parts. We're not going to. We might need the shims. Right, this is new. So it used to be 2 ball joints with a little section in the middle, whatever they called, like a threaded rod. This is new. Yeah, I've not seen this one before. It's a new part for this year. Reminds me of an old lossy part, I think. Okay. Righty-ho. So what we'll do to start with is we'll just get these servo screws just located in for later on, because I won't be putting the servo in just yet. I'll do this, do that at a later stage. Checking I've got the right screws. 8mm, 12mm, 10mm. Alright. I guess you need the longer ones for if you're using more shims. Always use screws with the washers. When you mount the servo, you push it up as high as it will go, so it stops rubbing on this section down here. If you have the servo sitting too low, it will foul on the bottom of the bulkhead there. Okay, last one of these. Right, then I'll attach the steering link. I think I'll use, will my shop pliers fit on this one? Probably yes. So I'm going to locate that over there and see if I can get the pliers over the top and give it a little squeeze. Lovely. Right, what's next? Well, I probably want to figure out how the servo horn goes on. I believe it sits on here like this. So we'll want this fella here, and I believe it goes in the longest hole. Now there's no nut on that, so we're going to have to, I think we're going to use a little bit of thread lock. I need a 5.5 driver for this one. Definitely it's going to get the thread lock treatment on this one. Don't want this coming loose either. Okay, so that should go on that one there. Got a few of these. Again, pop this on with a pair of pliers. It'll be easier with the bigger pliers this time. Okay, so when the servo goes in, that will sit in there. Looks about right. No, I've got that upside down. That's how it goes. That's it. That's how it sits. Right. All these parts I'll put in my leftover bits, which I might need later on. But yeah, I won't be using the kit servo saver. Okay. That is that front end complete. So we're moving on to step 15. So we're going to need the front end part on here from your S2 bag. This fellow here from your 3 front links, and 15 bag here. So a bit of a tidy up. Don't need you. Right, let's see what we've got in bag 15. There's a little washer in there, stuck in the bag. Okay, moving on. So first things we want to do is we want to put these little brass fellas into your S2 front link mount. So for that we need this screw here, the cap head screw. Is that a 2mm? No, that's a 2.5. Okay, so you've got a 2.5 driver. Then we're going to want 3 silver washers. And this is to crush the little brass kiddie into the front link mount. So I've got 3 washers on there, and this is going to go into the big hole in the corner here. So you just push that roughly in position, flip it over, and then just wind that in. And yeah, once this has gone in, we then just need to attach the front links. Then it can be screwed to the bulkhead. So that is wound in tight, it's pulled it in, and then you unwind it. And that is squashed that into position. Repeat the other side. So this time, I mean, I could just pop it straight through there. Find the thread and wind it in. And once it catches, it just pulls itself in. There we go. Right, so we've got a matching set of those. And this, you'll screw the washers, can put into my leftover parts tub. Right, next up, I'm going to attach the front links. So it's saying we're going to use one of these, big ball stud, or a 2mm driver. And I'm guessing 4mm of shins either side. So go for a 2 and then 2 1s. And you want your link mount screwed in from the top, wind on its own. That's one side, and then the other. What's next? We need some nuts. Oh yeah, the nuts go the other side. What? That's not for that, is it? That's for a different. So, yeah, that's a completely different part. Okay, so we want to attach that to the outer link hole. My mistake. Then you need a nut. There we go. And same again. So I've got 2mm, 2 1mm. And this is in a short location, being on the furthermost outside hole on the link mount. Once that's on, we can then attach it to the car, or the front end of the gearbox here, bulkhead. Now there's 4 attachment holes, but we're only going to be using the back 2 because I think the top deck gets screwed through the other ones. And you can build these with an electric driver, but doing it by hand you got a bit more feel for how the plastic is giving up as you tighten it up. But certainly saves a bit of wrenching with an electric one. Okay. Once that's tightened up, we can put the front links on, and that's that stage complete. Time for a cup of tea. Okay, so they've been tightened down. Rack will move freely. Everything is the same by either side. So my links That's the flat there. I'm going to have the links on the left side of the car. Again, these are going to require some pliers, I think, because they're new. I think I need some bigger pliers. Yeah, these ones get a bit stuck. See if I can. That's it. Right, so my flat is on that side, so I want to match it so the flat is on the same. Scratched it already, look. On the same side. That's better. Right. So my links are on, they're moving freely. Right, that's that section complete. Right, time for a break.